those of you who are waiting, we have Brent, Age of Grogu, Dylan from All New Nerds, and Jenny. We're going to talk about Spider-Man No Way Home. Hang in there. We're going live in just a couple minutes. Are you guys ready? Are you ready to go live? Are we ready?
In a minute.
Let's do it. What's up, guys?
Hey. What's
So
going on?
glad everybody is here. What's up? Dimes to Dollar podcast. This No Way Home is my favorite MCU movie. Wow.
Wow.
I'm not ready to say that yet, but
Yeah,
I mean, I
here.
understand your sentiment. Sheena Marie, what's up? Glad I saw it this morning. Yes. I'm glad everybody. It seems like most people have seen the movie now. I haven't
With
seen
the
anybody.
records it's breaking?
Yeah.
I
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
Alveoli.
Very
Yeehaw. Yeah, guys. So, dude, Spider-Man. I've been like waiting since yesterday to talk. I know All New Nerds. Yeah, if you guys haven't been over to All New Nerds yet, go over to All New Nerds. They just passed 1,000 subscribers, guys. Let's hear it for All New Nerds.
Website is great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I'm so
It's
proud of
been
you
great.
guys. I feel like I've had a little bit of a mentorship with you guys. A
Oh,
YouTube
100%.
mentorship and
Yeah.
seeing my little babies grow up. It's just
I don't even know if All New Nerds
Professor
still
Mike
exists.
At YouTube you.
well, what's up, Lavelle? What's going on, guys?
Yeah, Lavelle.
We got our
Good.
friends. We got Shamir. We got Lavelle.
Anyway, yeah, if you haven't been over to All New Nerds, I would
Reed.
say, unfortunately, Johnny can't be here. Johnny from All New Nerds is probably, of all of our friends, the biggest Spider-Man freak.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
everybody.
oh my
So
gosh.
Oh, yeah.
I can't wait
I
to talk
was-
to Johnny.
Lucky enough to sit next to him in the theater.
Yes. Considering
Was it-
Spider-Man
was
it's not my top
Lord.
character like
Yeah,
Johnny.
Literally, like,
Yeah.
So yeah, let's
I-
talk
I
about
thought
the
I had to
scream
share
out
it.
loud
I was
moments of
talking
this
to
movie,
my
right?
friend Cody, who literally writes Spider-Man for Marvel
Okay.
Comics.
Oh, wow.
And who's like the opposite of me physically in every way
Uh-huh.
possible. And we were both talking about how we were like squealing out loud, like shrieking out loud
It
multiple
was
times during
one of
this
those kind of
movie.
films. It was definitely one of
Yeah.
those kind of films, wasn't it? It was great.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, this
So
was
much.
I felt served. Let's put it that way.
yeah.
This,
I felt-
it was
I
like
felt-
2+ hours of nonstop fan service. I mean, like absolutely
Yeah.
shameless.
but in the best way
I
possible.
feel like we have earned
Yeah,
it.
that's it. In the best way possible. Yeah, there are some times you could sit and say fan service could be too much, but this was the fan service in the right direction. I honestly call this Spider-Man film a love letter to Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
It really was. I mean, it just had all the right moments and all the right peaks and everything for me. It was,
I mean, the like character selection, like everything about this movie is a huge coincidence. Like the
Yeah,
fact
oh,
that
yeah.
these characters that we know, like there's a lot more people
Yeah,
that
yeah.
know Spider-Man's Peter Parker.
Oh, yeah.
The ones
Yeah.
that come through just happen to be the ones that we're connected to.
Right.
But like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
kind of see past that instantly, just because it's like, well,
Oh, yeah,
I
completely.
wouldn't have it any other way. So
no, absolutely not. No, I meant.
and that
was-
they were able to get even logistically from sort of a I don't know, scheduling perspective, especially considering that there's an ongoing pandemic and everything. The fact that they were able to get like all of the villains, to get the Sinister Six all
Yeah.
to come through
Yeah, yeah.
was just like kind of a logistical miracle and just so
Yeah.
exciting and impressive.
Yeah.
I can really appreciate how most of these things that we're excited about with this movie were things that we anticipated. Then we kind of, in a way, got spoiled, and we knew it was coming, but it still felt exciting. And I feel like that's really hard to accomplish because
that's it.
usually when you know
Yeah.
something is coming, it takes the fun out of it. And this
Yeah.
felt like more fun than anything.
I mean, the
Yeah.
first
So-
two drops, like we knew that Charlie Cox was coming to the MCU at some point soon, and we have for a long time been speculating
Mhm.
that this would be it. We were like,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
a lawyer. Peter needs a lawyer. Like it made sense. We've talked about this a million times, but at the moment it happened, I literally shrieked. Like I shrieked
Yeah.
out
I
loud.
would love to have seen
Aloud.
that scene a little bit longer, in all
Me
honesty.
too, because he's so good.
But it was such a great moment of just like pure outright, just when he reaches up and grabs
the
that brick, it's like, okay,
And then he said, "How'd you
this is
just do
cool.
that?" And he just goes, "I'm a really
Sorry
good
about
lawyer."
Yes,
It
yes.
was so great. It was.
Oh
so
my God,
good.
is it? You can imagine the whole time
And that
I was
made me
just
so
thinking of
excited
what
about,
Johnny
like,
was saying.
What else is
Yeah.
to come from Daredevil?
Absolutely.
Like that, even
Yeah.
just that little teaser was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm so renewed. My excitement to see more
Yeah.
Daredevil was renewed." 'Cause
Yeah,
that was
it
such
was,
a great show.
See, I've only seen season 1, and I do need to see season 2 and 3. and I'm
Please
gonna
watch
do that
them.
soon.
It
I
honestly gets
will, I
better.
will.
It gets even
Oh,
better
yeah.
as it goes.
No,
It's an incredible
I
show.
don't-
I'm lucky
doubt
enough
it.
to have not even seen an episode of Daredevil, so I'm
Really?
gonna go back and watch it all. Now,
Ah.
Johnny has
Yeah.
been begging me to watch it, and I'm just the kind of guy
Yeah.
that I have to do it on my own. I just
You know
gotta-
what?
Honestly, like, for
we should do a
anybody-
watch party. We should do a watch party. Dylan.
And
That'd be a lot of
D'Onofrio
fun. I
Kingpin
wanna-
just dropped in
I-
Hawkeye, so it's all we're
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
it's so much.
exactly.
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
recommend to everybody, like, if you have not watched the Netflix shows,
Yeah.
four of the
Mm.
Netflix shows, namely like Daredevil,
Yeah.
Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Punisher.
Yeah.
Well, this is my objective opinion, but I think that particular opinion is shared by a lot of people. That those 4 shows were like
Yeah.
exceptional shows.
Yeah.
And well worth watching, everybody, if you haven't seen them, because it seems that we are going to be seeing not only just those 4 characters, well, not those 4, I don't think we're going to see Punisher, but we're going to see Jessica, Luke, and Matt,
Yeah.
but we're also seeing Kingpin. I assume we might be seeing some of the supporting characters, like Rosario Dawson appeared across all of the shows. Her character was great. I would love to see her
Right.
again. I kind of assume we're going to see Misty Knight, played by Simone Missick, coming back in. She was in
Right.
multiple shows. She's a great character. So I think that a lot of these folks are going to be popping up very soon. So if you haven't seen it yet and want to get a little backstory, like high recommendations for those 4 shows.
Hell yes.
Oh, I'll have to watch them all. That'll be a good
Yeah.
month. Where I just
Yeah.
binge
Yes.
all of them in a row.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, man, we've
Well-
been anticipating this movie has been kind of like what we've been talking about the longest in a way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, we've known so
Since-
much about it from like a
Yes,
year
yeah.
or maybe
Yeah.
even
For
more.
sure.
Yeah. Longer.
Yeah. And you know what I mean? I know it's different for everybody. I know if Levi was in here, he'd be the counter argument to this. But with the whole Star
Yeah.
Wars sequel trilogy, the way that panned out in a way that it kind
Yeah.
of like built up to this and then like
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a lot of it had, there was that like leaks coming out and knowing what was going to happen ahead of
Yeah.
time and being able to like criticize it ahead of time and with this, like getting certain spoilers ahead of time or, it never got ruined. It met up with it.
Right. Yeah.
It's amazing to me that the hype level that it had, it's still,
Yeah.
we met that hype.
I was shocked for the amount of time that we saw both Toby and Andrew in this movie. I honestly thought they're going to be in it for 10 or 15 minutes. They're gonna make it as a fan service thing. They'll pop in, they'll do a few moments, and then they'll disappear. They were in it for a full hour of
They
the
were
film.
the other
It was
stars
so
of the movie.
amazing.
Like, they were in it more than Zendaya was.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
And they could not, the Andrew Garfield reveal moment could not have been better. Like that, to
Oh,
me,
yeah.
And I have to
I was-
say, how you were saying, Mike, like some stuff got spoiled. Like we saw Alfred Molina in the trailer, which was a huge, exciting, and we heard Willem Dafoe's like laugh and
voice.
saw
Yeah.
the props. So we sort of had both of those spoiled. And like you said, the moments weren't spoiled. I still screamed out loud again.
All of us did, yeah.
But the minute they showed
Well, I
up,
think I heard,
but the Andrew Garfield thing, I mean, I'm sure everybody remembers Tom Holland getting in trouble for dropping spoilers. And
Yes.
Andrew Garfield has been so assiduous in like convincingly denying that he was in this movie. He's just better at that than Tom, I guess. But like he really insisted he was not coming, to the point where I almost believed him. And then that moment was like,
that's what makes him a great actor.
it's like exhausting how good that dude is. I
Andrew's
know.
constantly like, no, I'm not in him. And Tom's
Yeah.
No,
like,
I
"Oh,
don't
yeah,
know.
we
If you've
haven't
heard,
really
I don't know
yet."
about it.
You know what's weird is like at first I was like, Tobey Maguire is so weird, and then I was like, wait a minute, that's why he made such a great Peter Parker.
That's exactly why he was good in that role.
Yeah. Yeah,
We were like,
and
yeah, Tobey Maguire
yeah.
is so weird.
And then
Yeah.
the minute
It is
Andrew
awkward,
showed
yeah,
up, like
yeah.
you knew that if
Yeah.
Andrew was there, Toby was coming. So that
the-
just like hyped it up even more.
The dynamic between the three of them on screen, totally different Spider-Mans.
Amazing.
But it was so amazing to see that they had that same connection thread throughout all of them. And
Yeah.
again, that goes to the writing, in my opinion. The writing on this was really well done, and just it worked. It just completely worked for me.
Do you guys have
Yeah.
a favorite of the three? I mean,
Of
I
the
imagine
three
everyone
Spider-Mans?
does,
The
but
three
yeah.
Spider-Mans.
Yes.
I mean, well,
I have.
it's different.
do.
I like Andrew Garfield as an actor and as
yeah.
the way he looks, like his appeal. I like,
Yeah.
but the movies themselves,
not
I wasn't
great.
a
Right,
fan of.
right.
So it's
I like the first one, but yeah, I see
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you're
The
saying.
first one was good.
I have I have a good thing to say about all of them, which is
Exactly
that
right.
like Andrew Garfield by far the greatest actor of the three,
Mm,
with no disrespect to the other two. Like Andrew Garfield is just next level. But those
Tom
movies,
Holland proved himself in this movie. though.
he's wonderful.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
again,
He earned
but,
some
like,
points.
Andrew Garfield is like Titanic level talent, and
Yeah.
you know those movies were just meh. I personally think that like from a an objective standpoint, Tom Holland is probably the most appropriate Spider-Man of the three. He just seems the
Yeah,
most
I do
Spidey to
agree.
me.
Yeah, he
But
does
like
too.
I'm
Yeah.
very, very nostalgic about those Sam Raimi movies. Like
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
expect I was excited, I was hyped, whatever,
Mhm.
but I didn't expect how like legitimately emotional I was gonna get
Oh yeah.
when I saw the characters from those movies showing up. It's just,
Especially
you know,
Alfred Molina and Willem
they came
Dafoe.
out, the first
Yeah,
movie
yeah.
came
Giving,
out
like,
20
emotional
years
moments.
ago.
Yeah.
And like Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst are like teen stars, child stars from my
Yeah.
childhood, from my teen
Yeah.
years. Kirsten and I are about the same age. Toby's just a couple years older than I am, and like we've
Yeah.
been together since we were children.
Yeah.
And I have seen those movies, the Sam Raimi movies, like so many
Yeah.
times, and not for a while.
Yeah.
I haven't watched them in years at this point, but like I've
Mm.
seen them so many times, and I honestly was like overwhelmed by like legitimate nostalgia.
Mm.
And I love the fact that like I said to Mike, I was live texting Mike my reactions. He's probably like, Jen, shut up. Let me see."
No, I was loving it. Because I was like, oh, that's where she's at. She's at that
Thread
part of the
my
movie now.
like
That's funny.
overreaction to everything.
Uh-huh.
But I was so excited that in like a pantheon of big bads, they got
Yeah.
all the big bads.
Yeah.
The ultimate big bad was the OG, the first one.
Yes.
Not
Yeah.
only because
Yeah.
it like brings
Yeah.
it full circle literally, but because
Yeah.
respect Willem Dafoe's game. I
No
have
one
met
says no
Willem
to
Dafoe.
me.
I gotta say, I have met Willem Dafoe. He is like the most
Oh, really?
mild-mannered, charming. Like there is nothing creepy
That's
or spooky
cool.
about him at all. He's like the sweetest man I've ever met in my born
Oh,
days.
that's cool.
And he just has so much game at playing
yeah.
a
Creepy, spooky. Yeah.
Now they
Bad
did
guy.
de-age him, correct, for this
So-
to match him into.
Oh, did they? I was thinking.
I
what was
felt
I
that?
was
like
hearing
they
conflicting
did.
things about that.
Yeah,
I
felt-
know
yeah.
Alfred Molina definitely they said like we're doing like this new
Right.
technology or whatever. on
Gotcha.
it.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything on
Feels
Yeah,
like they
how
would've
old
had
is
to have
Molina?
taken
He must
20
be
years.
ancient at this point because he's
Yeah.
he's
Gotta be
in
getting
Raiders
up
of the
there.
Lost Ark, the opening scene of Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Is,
Yeah.
And that's
He's
in
in that
early
scene.
80s. Yeah.
That's 1980.
Yeah.
Like
that
early,
dude
yeah.
is so good. I gotta say,
He's
I
wild.
don't think there are a lot of actors
Hmm.
on Earth who are that good, and I don't just mean like technically skilled. Like he
Yeah.
exudes charisma. He
Yeah.
shows up and like,
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
and you melt. There, it's like
Yeah.
Marlon Brando, like Peter O'Toole,
Yeah.
Sidney Poitier. Like there are
Yeah.
not a lot. Paul Newman. There are not a lot of actors that have like.
Yeah.
Electricity coming
Gravitas.
off of their bodies. Yeah, but
Yeah.
like literally just exudes character, and
Yep,
that dude
yep.
just shows up, and you're
Yep,
like
absolutely.
drawn into
Yep.
his aura. He's
Yep.
so good.
Oh, but also on top of that, the character of Dr. Octopus
Mm.
or Otto Octavius, like
Yeah.
getting to kind of like redeem himself and like 20 years later
Yeah.
get
I
to
may
be
have
like the
cried.
good guy.
Yeah.
I may
Yeah,
have
yeah.
cried when he was
That-
like,
this
"Make you whole." He was like, "I am grateful. I may have
Yeah,
shed
yeah,
a
yeah.
tear." Like I was
this Toby
emotional.
and Doc Ock actually being able to talk, you know, it's not the like. I mean,
Right.
his ending was great
Mhm.
in Spider-Man
Yeah.
2, and that's one of my favorite Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
But just like I don't know, there was just something about Toby being like, "Oh, hey, Doc," like
Yeah,
what's
that
up?
moment at the end
Glad
when they're
you're
just
okay,
having a
yeah.
face to face was just so emotionally brilliant between
Yeah.
those characters, and it was the ultimate send off to those characters.
Right, and
But hopefully not, because I'd love to see them in sequels.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it depends what
Yeah.
ended up happening to them, but I
Mm.
think especially See, TASM 2 is a weird one for me because I hated Electro. I mean, I just can't stand him. But I thought they did him really well in this movie. And to see Andrew Garfield, Peter Parker actually just talk with Electro instead of just killing him, like he did in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And you know, they actually have a heart-to-heart and an understanding. That's what Spider-Man's all about. I mean,
that's it.
Almost every Spider-Man villain has a redemption arc for a reason.
Yeah,
For sure.
100%.
Totally.
And there was such, I mean, for me, it was this huge, it wasn't just that it was an emotional moment, that the healing of Doc Ock and everything that came from that. It's like big clunky metaphor, but I think it's actually really important and relevant, which is that it's a man who's been subsumed, who's been amalgamated into a machine. Like he's lost the part that was man and become machine, and he's redeemed. And it's, I mean, there's all kinds of weird religious overtones to that, but I think it's also really relevant in you know, we live in the future. We live in the future. We're attached to machines all day long, all the time, and especially in this age where we're all like doing everything digitally and via Zoom, and everything has become virtual and distant. This idea of returning to the human, of becoming human again, was like a very powerful, again, like subtle. It's not subtle. It was a very sort of over the top, clunky metaphor, but an effective one. And I really thought that was a gorgeous moment, and that was just such a beautiful way to handle that storyline.
I thought too for. I was just gonna say. I thought too for Toby and Andrew and Tom to be the ones to fix them all. I mean, Toby, he was like, I've been thinking about the serum for a while. I mean, his best friend died because of it, and you know, he had to. Well, he didn't kill, you know, Green Goblin, but it was a whole thing. And just for them to get that another chance, I mean.
And then
ago, I would have never imagined
Andrew Garfield not being able to rescue Gwen Stacy, but getting the chance to save Mary Jane and feel like redeemed. Like
I think I cried at more
oh my god,
Andrew Garfield moments than any other Spider-Man.
Oh, it's like it's not his girl. He got to save the girl.
He did get the best moments. And I think it was also the fact that because his series was never continued, it was kind of paying homage to Andrew Garfield as that character as well, because they gave him those tie-off moments as well, since it seemed obvious they're not going to continue that arc. I also want to say another thing. Lavelle points up there about the comment that with what's his name?
Today, Junior.
Jamie Foxx Electro.
The Jamie Foxx Electro, referring to I thought you were going to be black under that hood, which was a great little foreshadowing, obviously, for Miles Morales, which I think we all want to see. Yeah,
I want to know how Electro, and we can talk more about, I guess, plot holes later, but how did Electro get through the portal? Because he never knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and that was that was what the spell was.
Didn't he?
Did he not?
He did. No, he never found out.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is obviously escaped
I'm
the
like
other
trying to
day,
remember now.
so I have no answers.
You know what? It's been a while since I've seen Spider-Man 2. Actually, I saw it a few months ago, but I'm just trying to remember. I thought through the intersecting in the internet, but between being electricity, he had this ability of being able to find.
Maybe that's what it is. They never
do
explain it, but that could totally be. That's a good. I mean, I don't need an answer.
Yeah.
He was amazing in the movie. So
Right. Yeah.
Made the movie better for it. So I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
And there were some characters that didn't know, like Doc Ock didn't know, or what's his name? Sorry, Doc. Yeah, no one should have known that Green Goblin was Osborn, right? Like, because
it depends.
Oh, because Tobey Maguire was
anyone after the fact would have found out. The media would have said, "Oh, look, it's
But he was like, "Don't tell Harry," I figured that it never got out. I don't know. I don't know. But again, the movie's better for these characters, and I think
I'm sure that people would have found their ways of getting information.
Yeah, for sure. Especially scientists within the science world and stuff. So fine by me.
Yeah.
So guys, how we got to talk about it. It's how did you feel about the Aunt May situation? Let's talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, we all knew it was coming for one of the characters. The obvious choices were Aunt May or Happy, and Happy didn't seem like the right choice for me because he really was not Spider-Man centric. So it seemed like Aunt May was the direct thing. I just love how much of a badass she was right prior to those moments, and you almost thought, oh, she's going to be okay, and they did that false lead-in of making you feel like this character is actually going to survive, and they also played the same card at the end with Toby when he got himself stabbed in the back. Yeah. And they played that same card, but it went the other direction.
Yeah.
Which was great too. Otherwise, we would never have heard the end of it from Johnny.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been a popular moment.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been a popular.
That would not have been a popular
moment.
Not
at all. But at the same time, I think Aunt May specifically had to go. It was the passing of a character that strengthens Spider-Man to who he was, and he did have that within Tony Stark. I mean, he's kind of had it twice, the poor guy.
Yeah.
But this is the full-on leads you into your own, young man about to go into college and grow up and live on your own and stuff like that.
And also his
for that character.
And also his coming of age as a Spider-Man. I mean, this was a really beautiful moment. They were having this amazing comic banter between the three of them, but especially between Andrew and Toby.
Oh, it was great.
Funny lines dropping, but then the moment where like he's freaking out and he says, don't tell me how I feel. You don't know how I feel. And it got real serious. And Toby's like, my uncle died. And Andrew's like, my love died and whatever. And it was like, they've each been through something like that. And it really does. It forges you in that fire. And now it's not just that he's growing and becoming a man. He's also becoming like a Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I think that I agree with everything Brent just said wholeheartedly. That was good writing, because especially considering that this movie was such unadulterated fan service, you need something to ground that to like a narrative that has actual stakes. So this gave the narrative some kind of actual stakes rather than just being like, a special that's put together for our entertainment or something.
Yeah.
I think that moment with May kind of, for Johnny too, but we've always had this issue with MCU Spider-Man that throughout the movies there isn't a whole lot of consequence for him, not in the end anyways. But this movie especially really fixed that. I mean, at the end no one knows who he is. So that moment specifically, I was like, okay, they're going full force. This is the movie that he really becomes Spider-Man, this is the time, this is it. And so I thought that was one of the things we didn't know about this movie. I feel like we knew everything else, but we were like, who's going to die? Because someone's going to die. We know someone dies. And for it to be May, and in that moment too, just the way it was done was beautiful.
And then the scene with Happy at the grave at the end, where it's like, yeah, and that's actually the moment where they like first depict like, oh shit, like nobody remembers
Nobody
him.
knows
Like,
who it is.
like spell worked or whatever, because that's the scene prior to him going to the coffee shop or whatever, and so it hits you right there. And when Happy's like, how did you know her? And you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, he knows
that,
everything.
that's heavy.
The real shit of that moment for me, honestly, was not even like the how did you know her, and not even the his like mentor friend guy doesn't know him. It was when Happy said like, I recently lost a friend, and Peter not only knows who that is and knows everything about that situation, but that Peter himself was emotionally invested in Tony and looked up to him, and the amount he has been through with Tony, and that he just kind of has to stand there while Happy's like, I lost a friend recently. And I was like, oh man, like it's all coming together. That was like, ooh.
Jenny, I actually have a question for you about the May scene that my friend brought up, and I was like, Jenny might be able to answer this. So my friend is really into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as I know you
I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as we all know.
He was saying that the May death scene, while it was great, was almost like a shot-for-shot recreation of a scene in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't remember the character he's referring to, but it's some death. I don't know. Maybe if I had more details,
I have to go back and watch the scene now, but I mean, a lot of people died in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I'm trying to think like what it might be. There was I don't know. He's one of those like, wow, they really just don't care about S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore. And for that to see them like, I don't know. He was a little frustrated. I have questions about whether they care about S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore or not. Mike and I were talking. This is a quick digression from Spider-Man, but Mike and I were talking after the last Hawkeye episode. There's a lot of speculation. We all can tell that like Linda Cardellini, Clint's wife, is obviously a former agent, and there's something that's going to be revealed there. And I know that there's been a lot of speculation that she's Mockingbird. And I was like, but Mockingbird was quite a major character for a couple seasons of
Yep,
Agents of Shield, Bobby Morse, the character Bobby Morse with the sticks and everything. And I was like, and especially because that show has continuity with, or traditionally had continuity with the MCU, and because there are crossover characters, plus that we've heard that Phil Coulson might be coming back and that Quake might be entering the MCU.
Secret Wars,
I'm kind of like, are they really gonna like? It's so weird to have like a mix of continuity and no continuity.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I have questions. That entire thing about like how much does Agents of Shield count at this point has been playing on my mind recently for multiple reasons. So I have to go back and watch that death scene again and see.
Right. I'll get more details for you, and I'll
to.
come back to you and see
Yeah.
if you.
I was going to say one other thing about the mace scene just prior to the death sequence. That fight sequence in the building, especially when they were doing the stunt work through the levels of the ground, was some of the best stunt work I've seen. Like practical stunt work was just incredible on some of that stuff. It was
me, Johnny, and Levi were watching some of the Raimi movies before, and we're like, wow, the MCU just doesn't do fights like the Raimi did. Like this is incredible. And then that happened, and I was like, okay, this is a fight, not necessarily similar to Raimi, but something interesting. The camera work, the movement, everything was just. It wasn't a big CGI fight. I mean, it was, but it was two characters, throwing punches.
But there was a lot of practical in that fight at the same time. Yeah,
exactly, right.
Yeah.
Again, it's really interesting to think about that first movie came out effectively 20 years ago, and like think of how much has happened in terms of film technology since then, and like how much Sam Raimi and his camera people and his editors were able to accomplish.
They
2001, 2002 level, like really impressive stuff.
Well, that's why most people still consider Spider-Man 2 like the best one.
I'm up there.
Doc Ock's tactical.
This one is close. I still think Spider-Man 2 is my favorite as well. I do want to give one quick shout out to J. Jonah Jameson too, because his presence was brief, but it was awesome. Like he felt so menacing and so like just like one of the real villains. That's
Raimi,
dude. He's causing so much trouble.
I agree. That's what I'm going to say with Dylan. There, I agree. There is. It was actually playing on. The second film was playing last night on TV, and I had it on just during one of those scenes. And he does bring forward a different presentation of that character in the MCU compared to what he played in the Sam Raimi. And I did prefer his Sam Raimi version a little bit better.
In what way specifically do you think it's that different?
Just the attitude and his speed. And I don't know whether it's just simply the acting is slowed down in I've forgotten his name. The actor.
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons, thank you, yes. I don't know if he's just slowed down a little bit, but his pacing and his demand and his presence was so much boom, 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 boom. And if you go back and watch it compared to this version, he's a bit more slower, obviously, but he's a bit more...
Here he's in sort of like that virtual green screen, performing for the audience.
Still the Alex Jones
setting, whereas he's just in his office.
Exactly,
and,
Dylan, exactly. I think this is very conscious, and I think there are two specific things going on. Like, I think this is written and directed specifically with that intention. Right. In the Sam Raimi movies, he is a cartoon character. He is a comic book character. He is big and bombastic and absolutely over the top, larger than life kind of.
They have to tone that down a little bit.
Right. So for starters, this isn't that movie. And like all of the characters, like Matt Murdock, or what we've heard about, like Kingpin being a different version of Kingpin. I think this is the MCU version. This is our version, and we need to differentiate it in some way.
Yeah, absolutely.
From a like artistic perspective. But I think there's also a conscious choice in that any art is of its moment. Art is only relevant in its moment, whether we're talking about comic books or Picasso. It is of the moment, and that character right now, it's not subtle. It's Alex Jones. It's Tucker Carlson. Like it is. Not irrelevant. It's extremely relatable to the moment we're in, and that isn't just sort of a cute, clever observation to make. That's dangerous. There are real dangers that we're facing in this moment, and again, I think that gives real stakes and real
That's why I'm like, he actually felt like one of the scariest villains of the movie. Like he felt like he felt the most threatening.
Information is a weapon. This is 2020, almost 2022, not 2002. And information is one of the most dangerous weapons we have.
He represents the negative media that's out there that is, you know, trying to use their own which he always was, I guess, in the comics too, but they make it more real. Did you also notice how brilliant it was? And I'm going to go into production design for a moment, where he starts off in his own little, you know, apartment with his own little green screen background, and then of course, obviously, after he breaks the news that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, the next time you see him, he's in a real studio, and how he's obviously become more famous and more important to what he has to say about things, and obviously started getting money to move up in the world, which is kind of cool.
Super relevant. Keep in mind, when the first Raimi Spider-Man came out, literally Facebook didn't exist. That was 2 years before Facebook was even invented, let alone
he was writing newspapers.
Public. This character, I mean, in an age, in the age of Twitter, in the age of like instant media, this was that first movie was not made in that time period. And so we have to think about this, that like the information and the way it's passed is completely different now than when he first played that character.
I mean, I you know, totally
worked. Shit, I just remembered, Dylan, I don't know if you guys talked about it yet, but to me, I feel like Johnny's Ned Hobgoblin theory just got completely solidified in this movie.
What was his theory again?
I don't know. It was
What's
so
his
Johnny.
theory?
Ned literally had a line in this movie that goes like this:
Ned.
"I promise I won't turn into a supervillain and try to kill you."
Right.
And I'm like, you
so
can't be
brilliant.
more like blatant with it than that. Where it was like they just set it up right there. Like he's gonna be the Hobgoblin in a future movie. He's gonna be the bad guy.
And it was played against the like line that Tobey Maguire dropped about how he was like, he said, "Do you have a best friend?" And he said, "I did." And you know, before he tried,
but now Ned is learning magic.
The way he presented that line, he did, and he died.
And
it was just like,
Doctor Strange like specifically sees Ned like use magic or whatever, and he's like, "You use magic?" And it's like, "Oh, okay, that implies Doctor Strange is gonna like hook him up with some training or whatever."
To open a portal.
Yeah, so he's
Yeah.
not gonna be like the next Wong. He's gonna be a bad guy. He's gonna be a.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
Or like, you know, like a Mordo.
His memory's wiped, so he's not going to have that relationship with Peter Parker.
Oh, that's right.
So he could go completely in a different direction.
And that's why it's like, I promise I won't.
You
know, it's like, oh well.
So the foreshadowing might really be foreshadowing.
And a lot of
I want to hear Johnny's opinion on this,
Peter
like
is
ASAP.
like the good force in his friend's life that like grounds them and ties them together, and with that like inherent power, but without Peter as like the guiding light,
because
he'll spin off into the bad path. That
would be an interesting way to take it.
They also kind of like, Ned had one line like in that coffee shop or something. He said something about MIT, but like he sounded like way more just sort of like confident and like and it was like, whoa, like Ned is like confident and like
she was like, go engineers or whatever, and he was like, what? Like, don't even care. Like, guess I should give a shit. Like,
guess you should know that.
So now he's
Sorry,
gonna go,
didn't mean to cut you off,
learn
Dylan.
some engineering
not a problem.
and use it for evil.
What
So
were you saying,
interesting.
Well, we were given our, just our future for these characters' theories, and we are thinking, what if somehow MJ and Ned, or MJ or Ned, they get their memory back, and Peter has this promise to MJ and Ned that he's gonna come find them. And then what if he's in college and he's friends with Harry and Gwen now or something, or he's doing his own thing, and they're like, yo, you like totally betrayed us. Like, he literally promises to MJ, it's like, I will, I'll come find you, tell you I love you and all that stuff.
I have a question
of
do you think that when Peter Parker or someone's memory is revealed that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, that all the memories will come back, or do we think it'll just be a new start of how you get new memories?
No. I honestly don't think the memories are going to come back. That's just my opinion. I feel like Doctor Strange's magic is pretty solid.
I don't think they're going to get rid of Zendaya.
He's pretty okay at his job. Like, it's possible that memories might not come back, but that they might find out somehow. And then it's not just an issue of like, you made a promise. It's an issue of you made the decision for us, because that was an issue here as well, when she was like, maybe next time, you should ask us before you change the universe or whatever. And so the fact that like, once again, he made the executive decision and didn't trust anyone could be an issue.
Right, where he thinks he's doing the right thing. He always thinks he's doing the right thing. That's what makes Peter Parker Peter Parker. But,
I love how they specified that Wong is actually the Sorcerer Supreme now.
He's like, technicality. I got put for 5 years.
But it's like, that's actually an important little side technicality there, though. It's like, oh, no, that's Wong is like the legit top dog now.
Now, he seemed a little angrier than normal in this film. I don't know why. Was he just pissed off with...
I mean, have you seen some of the shit he's been dealing with, like Shang-Chi and like...
Fair enough,
he's been fighting like Abomination and like the like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
good point.
He's got his hands full, like always, and he's always going through portals to different places and like getting in fights. And
he's like a disgruntled.
I love Wong, dude. I love
that.
He's awesome.
That attitude.
Yeah. Totally.
Where he just like had enough of Strange's shit. He's had enough of his like games. Yeah. And that one line where Strange is like, do you remember that thing? And he's like, no. And he's like, there you go, the spell works. Like that. It just shows that they like have shenanigans together that are like crazy adventures on their own.
He seemed genuinely pissed off, but it was like, it didn't feel like the shenanigans. It was more like, it wasn't the roll of the eye shenanigans. It's more like, I'm really pissed off at you shenanigans. Which, again, as we're going into, multiverse of madness, I guess that could be an interesting play into how that relationship works out too.
Yeah, Lavelle, I loved how Andrew basically told the other Spider-Man how lame Rhino was. I know that was one of the biggest laughs of the movie.
Russian guy in a Rhino suit.
They are listening. They are listening.
Oh my god. Because we've been talking about Sinister Six with Johnny for like weeks and weeks and weeks, and every time the Rhino comes up, it's like, no.
I know. He's like, I thought aliens in outer space. He's like, I thought a Russian guy. Rhinos.
Well, you get all the cool villains.
Something I will say about that scene is they didn't make it seem like Toby and Andrew have lived much more past the movies we saw them in, which is probably just to gain familiarity.
I actually disagree a little bit. I actually got the vibe from Tobey Maguire specifically where, like, you know how in Into the Spider-Verse, like, Peter Parker... like the older version of Peter Parker has like a pot belly and is kind of like run out of energy and he's just like beaten up. Yeah, and it's like that wasn't the case here.
But back crack.
He was like, oh, my back, and it was like, okay, they're showing like Spider-Man at 40 here. They're showing like the slightly aged. So to me, it did feel like, oh, this implies that like in Tobey Maguire's universe, the Spider-Man events take place when they took place for us 20 years ago, and that this is like the 20 years older version, and he's.
I got that same vibe. It was a very brief moment where it was something, I can't remember what the question was, but somebody asked him a question and he was like, it's good, like MJ, my MJ, different MJ, it's confusing or whatever. But the like vibe I got off the line was that yes, they're still together, but like it's complicated. Grown-up relationships are not a comic book, and that he's actually like an adult in an adult relationship who maybe also is like a superhero on the side, but has like grown-up problems to deal with. And I'm reading a lot into like one very simple line, but I don't know, it was good line delivery. It was good acting. That was the vibe I got, like, he's just like living his life.
Guys, do you remember a few weeks ago, like when some trailers came out and you guys were like frame by framing the Sinister Six fight scene, like to be like, look, like they edited it out, Andrew here, they edited it out. Like, I feel like now you could look at this and be like, oh, you guys were actually kind of right. You were so right. Like they clearly, those guys were.
It was so obvious.
That one moment when you just see the three of them swing, and they do their iconic poses.
I almost stood up in my seat. I literally almost stood up.
Absolutely.
That, and then when brilliant. You could like see the two of them in the shadows just before they revealed themselves, I got chills. Like
it was so good.
You know what I think was actually one of the perfect parts of the Andrew Garfield reveal moment for me, which was like a stand up and scream out loud, like it's because I for a moment, like momentarily there, I actually was expecting Tom Holland.
100%.
So it was it was a bit of a like, because their voices, it had like a sort of a similarity to it. It was just very like, oh wait, that man, they hit that, they really
they nailed it.
I thought the line before they gave us Toby was kind of funny because it was like, why don't we do it one more time?
All right, here we go.
Now we know what the one more time is.
If they had just done it one more time, they would have found the. But they decided. Oh, I guess they couldn't. I don't know. Whatever. It was still just funny how it was like I kind of saw it coming because of that.
Well, the minute Andrew Garfield shows up, you know that they're not going to have like one and not the other. So you're like, ah. Yeah.
I mean, all those little beats, right down to the conversation about Toby's web fluid, which was, you knew it was coming because you knew everything that they set up, everything from the pointing fingers meme to Toby's web fluid. There were all those questions you would always want to ask, and they knew the right notes to hit and the right timing and the right strategy.
The pointing fingers meme, man. The fact, like, people ahead of time being like, "There's no way this frame isn't gonna be in this movie."
Yeah. But then to see it, and it's just, and the whole audience just loses it. It's great.
Yeah.
Totally.
Fantastic.
I think
it's too bad we couldn't actually film the reactions to this movie.
In the whole thing was where Andrew Garfield asked Tobey Maguire if he was going to go dressed as a cool youth pastor.
Yes. Oh my god.
And he's like, and you know, that was such a callback too, because that was like,
he's just dressed like Tobey Maguire.
OG Spider-Man who actually has to like wear the suit under his clothes, and now we have like Tom Holland in Stark technology who like clicks a button and his whole look changes. As if he himself is a digital avatar. And it's this callback to like not only the character, but to the time in which that movie was made, where the biggest thing you could dream of was like have to pull off your shirt, you know, to reveal the suit.
That was Tom Holland's big takeaway at the end of it, that he can't put on the Tony Stark tech. He can't go out as Spider-Man and somehow end up... Well, it's broken, but even then, he couldn't go out and display it because someone's going to go, wait a minute, that's Tony Stark tech. How the heck did you get that? So to take the Spider-Man costume,
the Avengers are
going to
be like, where did you get that?
So I think that's also a great way to reboot the character, you know, back to a scratch point of this universe, and
just to see it fresh. Like just to see it, you know, in the thread or whatever, him sewing it up or whatever, and instead of, because I've never liked the you know, the Iron Boy Jr. or whatever, which they actually reference in the movie. It's in one of the headlines, but I don't know, I don't love all the gadgets and stuff, and just to have him have a classic looking suit that looks like a mesh of all, you know, Toby, Andrew, and his own was just perfect. I loved it.
But you also got to look at it and say, you know, we've seen the classic suit before, and then when they started the Tom Holland story in this universe, give him something different we haven't seen, and that was great. But now it is fun to go back and see him go back to basics.
Definitely a downgrade, but like in terms of like, you know, what he can do with it. But
that's going to heighten the senses and make things different for him as well, as a you know.
Exactly. It just really solidifies.
Not rely on those technologies.
Again, like, yes, this is the Spider-Man. It can be a different take, but it's still hitting the beats that Spider-Man's supposed to hit. You know.
And that's such a motif. You know what I said before about the healing of Doc Ock being like man separating from machine, becoming human again. This is the same sort of thing at work. And you also have to think about like Doctor Strange, who is a big character in this movie, having to go like practice, you know, Eastern philosophy and like become very zen before he was able to use his magical tools effectively. He had to strip everything away and like, I don't know, do yoga.
Well, it's also moving away from Tony Stark, you know, in that past, because it's like, okay, I'm not even gonna use Stark tech to make my suit. I'm gonna straight up make my own suit, and I'm all alone now, so you know, I gotta learn to be alone. I can't rely on other people.
Wow, guys, what a crazy week for Marvel in general. Just like starting off with Hawkeye episode 5, Kingpin,
which is great.
It's unbelievable.
Spider-Man No Way Home. You get the Charlie Cox.
So and we get the season finale of Hawkeye in a couple of days.
And obviously all those other characters.
Before we like talk about other stuff, should we touch on the post-credit scene?
Yeah.
Like mention that quickly.
Oh yeah.
Anybody have big thoughts about that? About Venom and the implication to
that
me,
particular post-credit scene, that was the one that took me out of the film.
Really?
It took me out because it definitely was directed by the director who did the Venom film on the set and on the location because I know that when James Gunn did Guardians of the Galaxy, he directed his own Guardians scenes that were post-credit scenes for other films and stuff like that. And then that was spliced into the overall thing. So the tone was completely a different tone, and it
I feel like they've done that a lot with
out.
Post-credit scenes often have like a different tone like that.
Oh yeah, no, agreed. Yeah.
I agree with you about that. I thought, I mean, it was a little clunky to me, all the like sort of explaining the sort of like long-winded exposition that
Yeah.
It was like, if you have to explain it this hard, then maybe it's more confusing than it needs to be. But the base of all of that for me, the implication, I think, the little bit of like
venom
ectoplasm that gets left. The implication is that the reason, because like Eddie Brock doesn't know Peter Parker, he doesn't know Spider-Man, he doesn't know anything about this. The implication is that the reason he's pulled in is because the hive mind is connected to Topher Grace,
to the multiverse as well.
The hive mind version of the hive mind venom, because he talked about how like they're a hive mind and they're connected across the multiverse. And so the implication for me was that our Venom, Tom Hardy Venom, is connected via hive mind to Topher Grace Venom from.
Well, you saw the Topher Grace Venom
3.
in the rift in the multiverse, standing up there briefly. So it makes sense that one version of Venom would come through.
Was he up there? I didn't know.
Venom is definitely.
You see this light form of Venom,
But then it also suggests.
Well, we don't know if it's Topher Grace, but we know it was a Venom-based,
I think the suggestion is that, like, moving forward, if Venom comes into the MCU full throttle, that we might see some version that's closer to what happened in Spider-Man 3. The sort of like if Peter comes in contact with that goo, that ectoplasm, and that was a little bit interesting.
I'm curious whether that little piece of goo will go search for that world's version of Eddie Brock, which would be Tom Hardy, who would be a very different person to keep the actor in the universe.
If they even have
first,
an Eddie Brock.
if they even have an Eddie Brock, but it feels like they've done this thing with the actor and they want to keep him around, whether you enjoy Venom or not. They want to keep him around, so why not bring a different version of Eddie Brock in and have the symbiont piece search that version out first because it was the most connected. It's one of those things like it could go for Spider-Man, it could go whatever, but we don't know. I think it's part of the exploration. Of where it's going.
Makes sense too, especially if we're seeing some of these characters like Kingpin coming in, and that we know there's going to be new versions, variants. Of the original characters. That might make sense as a way to
whatever they do, Venom is definitely going to be the future of the Spider-Man franchise, because they've basically exhausted the other villains at this point. And that was obviously, like you said, a love letter to Spider-Man, but we're probably not going to be seeing Dr. Octopus and Green Goblin and all of these mainline Spider-Man villains that that's that for them, or at least for the next 20 years.
Of them.
So
I don't know about that. See, I mean, who's to say they don't bring in what's the Spider-Verse version of Octavius?
You mean Catherine Hahn's, the female version? Yes, they'll keep. That I feel like that's going to be the
build up on a different version.
100%,
of that character. Because
props to Catherine Hahn, by the way, for having two Marvel roles now.
I know, go figure. I didn't realize at first it was her, but how awesome was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was other theories I saw too.
Thanks, Lavelle, for the on Mike's hair.
The top knot, the man bun. We call it a sexy warrior knot.
There you go.
Yeah.
I don't know who calls it that. I do not call it that. I've never referred to any man bun that way.
It's a nerd knot. Nerd knot. There you go. Thanks for the super chat, Lavelle. Always appreciate it, buddy. Yeah, man. So I've got about maybe 15 minutes left if we are gonna hang out. But I do want to mention when we were talking about Hawkeye episode 5 and what we thought was gonna happen. We were like, Spider-Man No Way Home comes out this week. Is there gonna be something that happens in Hawkeye that kind of ties into Spider-Man when we see it, or the other way around? And now I'm wondering, Hawkeye finale, are we going to see anything that we just saw in Spider-Man, or is there going to be a reference to something that we just saw?
Did you see the ending of the movie? Yeah. He was in the same spot. We know Hawkeye goes to. Is it the Rockefeller Center or whatever, the ice rink? He literally. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be in the movie, but I don't know if it's a coincidence that Spider-Man, he swings up over it and starts dipping down. We know he's looking. He's doing some classic Spidey, just looking for crime.
Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Would it be weird, narratively, in a Hawkeye for Spider-Man to just show up?
I feel like
dude, that would be dope though, especially with the hype of this week. Let's go.
They just need a shadow. They just need a shadow in the background.
I mean, I feel like that takes the focus away from the people who are the protagonists of the show.
100%. Yeah.
Even a passing joke, like, who's that guy?
Yeah.
It could just be like, oh shit, he doesn't know who it is.
I think the passing joke is that the Rogers the Musical posters appeared in No Way Home. Like, I think that's the passing joke. And I think that's the fact that we have Kingpin in Hawkeye and Daredevil in Spider-Man.
Kingpin,
like the universes are coming together.
And now Yelena and Val and all those other characters.
I don't think we're likely to why. I don't see how that would add anything from a narrative point of view.
You know what I am ready for though? I am ready to get a like. I want to see a character. Like, we've been introduced to so many new characters this year. So many. I can name Like, I'm not saying like this is somebody who's gonna appear right now, but like White Vision. Like, that's something. That's something we gotta deal with because he just flew. He just went away.
Years from now.
I don't know. I would like to see that happen.
But there are so many like.
Madness. I mean,
Yeah, I mean. I would love for it, like John Walker, for instance. Like, if he's connected to Val and Val is connected to Yelena, like it would be great to get like maybe a Wyatt Russell appearance, or something like that, just for people that have seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or like. Give me a little bit of connectivity with what you've already given me this year.
We know very little outside of what they're directly showing us with Multiverse of Madness as to what other MCU characters are going to be in it. And the same with Thor, Love and Thunder. Although I assume that's more off-world, but at the same time, we don't know. We don't know if they are going to bring in your occasional, Val or any of those other side characters.
Not to mention, like, Secret Invasion is coming up. Not that far in the future, and that could turn everything on its head. I know that, like, in the comic books, Val has an entire Secret Invasion storyline where she's actually been replaced by a Skrull. It's a whole thing, and I don't know if they're going to go that direction or not.
Somebody was saying they were thinking Yelena could be a Skrull.
I mean, in theory, literally, I don't know if that makes sense, but like, in theory,
everybody's a Skrull.
Like, anybody.
Everybody's Mephisto.
You're a Skrull. You're a Skrull. Everybody's a Skrull.
It's Mephisto for sure.
Had to be Mephisto.
Yeah, Lavelle says 19 viewers. Yeah, guys, we got 20 people watching and only 14 likes. Let's get those likes up. And Sean says, what do we think will be the end credit scene for Hawkeye episode 6? Great question, man.
I can't even think
I think the fact that, because I think some people were kind of a little bit underwhelmed with the Vincent D'Onofrio Kingpin because it's just like, it's not him. It's like this blurry photo and it was cool.
We stopped and we looked back and we were like, it doesn't look like Vincent D'Onofrio unless he lost like 100 pounds.
Clearly the credits say that it's him though, so it's him.
Can I say something about that scene though? This was shot, a year ago, whenever it was when they were shooting it. This was the thing where they didn't want the secret getting out. So can you imagine if your first hint, without knowing that he was going to be connected somehow, or theories that he was going to be connected, of just seeing the suit and the hand, and then seeing this photograph, how mind-blowing it would have been if you didn't have D'Onofrio already saying in advance, hey, be sure to watch Hawkeye this week, It was just like those little moments of it just goes back to that, Marvel have got to, they're good at keeping certain amount of leaks contained, but they still haven't got there. I mean, not as good as, say, Book of Boba Fett or Mandalorian in cases where
I think there will be two Sean, I think there'll be two there'll be a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene
for Hawkeye.
Yes. Because we haven't had any, right? Because I think for a couple of shows like Loki, and maybe there was like a mid-credit scene in like a penultimate episode.
In Loki they did it.
So I think they will have one. They'll have one credit scene that'll be for Kate, because like this show was like, it's the handing the torch to her, and like we want to know where she's going next. So there's going to be some storyline for her
Kate and Yelena,
waiting, in the future for us to be like, ooh, now we're fans of Kate Bishop. Like, what's her next adventure? And then the next credit scene will be something probably unrelated or like,
I think it'd be Kingpin.
It doesn't necessarily need to be specific to Hawkeye, though. It could be anything. Because sometimes they introduce new things in post-credit scenes.
Kingpin. I didn't initially, until this week, I didn't think we were going to see Kingpin, see him at all. I thought it was going to be like a post-credit situation where he suddenly showed his face after the hand and the suit and all the hints. And the blurry photo is more than I was expecting out of like the penultimate episode. But so I had initially thought that would be a post-credit scene. I also wonder if maybe there might not be, because this ties to Kingpin, but it also ties to the other events of Hawkeye. I wonder if there might be a credit sequence of some kind with Echo going on her next adventure. Because she's getting her own show. Yeah. She's a character we've just met.
Oh, this is true. Yeah, good point.
Just been introduced.
So that could be that introducing the new.
I mean, they've done a beautiful job with that character, and Alaqua Cox is so amazing. Like, I'm obsessed with that character. This is like my favorite character ever, but they still have a lot to tell us about her, and her world has just been turned upside down with this information about her uncle.
I think last week was the last one she drove off on the motorcycle. Do we think that's the last?
It could be. It could be.
I feel like
that's why a post-credit scene would make sense, because you're like, oh, here's
right. Yeah, like she's already working out in her head that Kazi betrayed her father, and that like Kingpin isn't her friend after all, and she's got it, but she's not all the way to like being a protagonist of her own show type situation yet. So that could be a thing. They've just done such a great job with that.
Yeah, but also like Clint kind of like handed her ass. So she may also be kind of like going off to like, you know, get better at what she does.
Literally, she got shot too.
Like, you know, this next episode's an hour, so it's 59 minutes. I think it's the longest of any show. Apparently,
it is.
I don't know.
Oh, cool.
I didn't look, but apparently it's the longest of any MCU.
Do you think Echo is the kind of person that Val might be actually going on?
Whoa, you said the last episode is 90 minutes. You said
59. 59.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
I was like, remember the first episode of Bad Batch was like a 2-hour movie almost.
Which is sweet.
Yeah.
So far, every episode has been like 40 minutes. I love
this entire thing. I mean, it's more like a 5-hour movie, but it's been a 5-hour Christmas movie.
I want to sit and watch this. I actually want to sit and watch the 5-hour thing on Christmas Day. Just watch it as a full.
Lavelle says, "Do we think Val will have powers like Madame Hydra in Agents of Shield or not?" And I said no.
I don't know enough about her.
Her power is just being an evil bitch.
I think she's just evil and politically connected, and
but also we think that it's possible that she's Kate Bishop's aunt. And she's Eleanor. She could be Eleanor Bishop's sister. It's possible.
It's possible. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
because Bishop could be Kate Bishop's dad.
The implication about the aunt, her name is Moira Brandon. But that also can be like a stage name or a fake name.
Also, remember, Val has a little purple flare in her hair too.
That's true.
That little purple
might tie her too.
Yeah.
For anybody who's been tracking this, the apartment that like Clint was staying in, the aunt's apartment, there are all these old movie posters, like old sort of B-movie sci-fi type. So the implication is that she's this like Norma Desmond, Sunset Boulevard type figure who is this like B-movie actress who's just,
over the top, which she
over the top, aged glamorously, but is no longer important and has some money from her movie days, and she's not around. So I mean, that could just be what that is. But it is also possible that like she stopped being an actor, that like Moira Brandon was a stage name, and that she moved on into, I don't know, being an evil criminal overlord. It's possible.
Yeah.
Never know.
Also, there's, like you mentioned earlier, Jen, the whole Laura thing with her being an agent.
That's going to be a thing, clearly. I don't think we're going to tie all of that up in this.
There might be a post-credit or mid-credit scene dealing with some of that.
What I find interesting about that is that this show, like all of the shows, has been moving on from the OG Avengers and introducing the new generation. So, like, Tony's dead. Steve is probably dead. He's like 100 years old.
On the moon.
He's on the moon.
Steve's on the moon. Like, Natasha's dead. Like, a lot of these folks are just done, and we've got like the new generation coming, or here at this point, including like the Wanda, Vision type characters, but also the young Avengers who are coming. And this is it for Clint. And what I would have thought, like, what we're seeing is that he's physically falling apart. Like, he's really just more interested in spending time with his family than he is in anything else at this point. And Jeremy Renner himself is aging. And I don't expect to see like if there's a season 2 of Hawkeye, I would really expect it to be like not focusing on Clint. Like, I would expect him to be a guest star.
I agree. I would be Kate
and so what's really interesting about that is that they're just sort of introducing this Linda Cardellini storyline. at the time when they're sort of tying up Clint's story.
Come to think of it, like Hawkeye lends itself very because of this Kate Bishop character introduction. Like this could just stay as a show. They could potentially just keep this as
I mean, she's going to become Hawkeye.
It can become the Kate and Yelena show.
Although it does seem very much like the shows in general are like the new way of doing it. Like
but the point I'm making is that it's weird to be introducing a storyline about Clint's wife at the same time that you're tying up and ending Clint's storyline, and I don't really know how that's going to work.
I just feel like that's a beeline story for the whole process. That story's been and gone and done, to her life and her history. This is the tail end of her story, just to tie up something we're not particularly invested in, because we're not invested in her story. But it just means that it's all about family. This is what this series has been about: family and getting home to the family. And that is what, she is, his wife, obviously. So it's like the family element is tied into this particular scenario about the watch and everything. So,
and again,
we also still don't know what's on the watch,
it's a Christmas show, and I really expect, credit sequences aside, I really expect the ending of episode 6 to be Clint actually getting home.
Yes, it's got to have a happy
because Armand got murdered, but like so far nobody has died other than Armand. Well, and some goons, some goons have.
But
died.
then again, it's a Christmas special.
Is anybody gonna?
Are you gonna really kill anybody in a Christmas special? Come on.
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Although when Kingpin actually does make his actual first actual appearance, like they need to make it like it needs to be one of those like this guy is they need to make him insanely scary.
Yeah,
I'm so excited to see how it's gonna go, because we have heard that it's gonna be a different version again, like a variant. That it's not the Netflix Kingpin, it's a variant of that same character played by that same actor. But I have said this before.
There has to be a very good reason why Clint is like, this is the guy I've been worried about.
I've been looking for. It must have something to do with the watch and his wife and whatever, right? Yeah. I'm very interested to see how that goes. I'm a huge, like ridiculously huge admirer of Vincent D'Onofrio, but I did not love depiction of Kingpin on Netflix. It's not my least favorite thing, but it kind of felt like Edgar on steroids. Like, I don't know what the voice was he was doing. It was just like talking like this. I was like, what is the like? Why?
Edgar.
It was like Nicolas Cage level over the top acting for me. So I'm kind of curious, as somebody who I know is like a brilliant, talented, subtle actor. I'm kind of interested to see what new shade he can bring. Not shade like throwing shade, like what new tones, what new colors he can bring to that character.
Yeah. I mean, because the way they showed him, like it was a top down looking down tilt, which is like inherently in film, like the submissive in this shot. So it's like, wow, you're really gonna do that for Kingpin? Like there wasn't a better way you could have, showed us Kingpin. It was just a little, phone thing. I don't know. I thought it was not a good way.
It's funny, guys. Mike's son just came into the house, and I can hear him in the next room, like chirping away.
Actually,
all right. Well, with that said, I actually let's wrap it up because
we didn't cover the Multiverse of Madness trailer.
I know.
Oh, okay. Well, I anticipate maybe we'll be on Brent's channel tomorrow. Or Brent will definitely be on Brent's channel tomorrow. I possibly might be.
For sure.
But go over to Brent Age of Grogu. If you haven't already gone over to subscribe to Brent. Brent's got great conversations going on, and hopefully we can talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I look forward to it. And Dylan and Jenny, thank you guys for being here. Guys,
thanks for having us, Mike.
If you haven't been to All New Nerds, go over there. They've just passed 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Help them get that next L, man.
In the chat. Thank you.
Have you guys? Yeah, it's gonna be. It takes a couple months before you start seeing a little returns. But yeah, man. Hopefully, Book of Boba provides a couple little viral videos, and you get some traction, and it just. So
maybe
so. Dude, all year we've been hyped about basically like this week specifically, and it went well, and we're
paid off, like,
more
than
so.
we could have hoped.
Book of Boba Fett. It's like what, like 11 days now until Book of Boba Fett. It is shockingly close. So. I'm excited and I can't wait to do it. I'm glad Jenny is going to be joining me potentially for at least a few.
I think people who generally follow
Star Wars
us know
reactions
this,
finally.
But that was like far and away my favorite storyline in both seasons of Mando. Like the Boba Fett reveal was for me I saw it after the fact, so I already knew that Luke was coming, and so that moment wasn't quite as like mind-blowing for me. But the Boba Fett reveal, like I cried real tears.
Ooh, okay.
I will watch Ming-Na Wen do anything.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Like,
I'm
so excited.
Love that character. I'm
so glad to get back into it and get Star Wars going again, man. Because Marvel has definitely hit a home run, but they've had their moment, and I want to get some Star Wars going. Yes.
It's Boba's term and Cobra Kai. So it's
dude, Cobra Kai. I can't wait, dude. It's just the content is they're
fighting for the soul of the valley.
Yeah.
Let's go. And so I don't know if all the nerds, if you guys are gonna have another chat at all in the next day or two, but I want to get Johnny's. I want to talk to Johnny because
he's seen it
really
again right now.
Know everything he has to say.
And he's getting a second view. Lavelle, I know. Lavelle said he's seen it twice now.
Has not, even more than me, has not liked MCU Spider-Man at all. I mean, he thinks Homecoming's a pretty good movie, but he thinks it's just not great. And he walked out.
He thinks Far From Home is his least favorite movie.
He definitely says it's his least favorite movie.
That's a big
I thought it was
statement.
okay.
We walked
Better than
out,
Spider-Man 3.
No Way Home might be my favorite Spider-Man movie. And he was like, and Tom too. Like even without Toby and Andrew, like Tom was amazing.
Yep. So we got Spider-Verse sequel.
Yes, sir.
Is the new Spider-Man to look forward to now.
October.
I'm so
looking
excited.
forward. And like I said, Book of Boba Fett, we got Cobra Kai, we got it all coming, man. I'm so excited. Thank you guys for being here. Brent, Agent Grogu, go over to Brent's page. All new nerds, go check it out. Jenny doesn't have a YouTube channel, but she's here with us on Jedi Jive.
For sure.
But
that's right.
Looking forward to talking with you guys soon.
Merry
Peace.
Christmas,
Thanks,
happy holidays,
Yes.
happy solstice, everybody.
Yep.
Happy
holidays, everybody.
And that's how you make a baby dinosaur.